Allen Lund Company looks forward to seeing you at Matt's in March. OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
A debate over truck size and weight was one of the main topics of discussion during a U.S. House hearing this week. OOIDA's Louis Pugh was there to represent small business truckers as the association works to get the most pro-trucker highway bill ever passed. A lot of questions around insurance can pop up when you lease onto a motor carrier. We sit down with Trina Skywalker and Lisa Waske of OOIDA's Truck Insurance Department to discuss what is typically covered and what you should add on to your policy. And finally, for 35 years, truckers have gathered in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and put together what has become the largest benefit convoy in trucking, the Mother's Day Convoy benefiting the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Ryan Witkowski chats with one of the organizers. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Mark. Day 2 of the 2025 Mid-America Trucking Show is in the books, and as news anchor Scott Thompson found, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
From the vendors?
We love the show and the opportunity to meet all the drivers and talk about some of the issues they face on the road.
To attendees?
I've been up here so many times, I've seen, just about everything, but it's always good to come back. I always enjoy it.
And those fighting on behalf of truckers?
The people are great, but why wouldn't it be great? They're truckers.
The 2025 Mid-America Trucking Show got to top speed on Friday. Arguably the show's busiest day, the halls of the Kentucky Expo Center were buzzing with activity. For attendees like OOIDA Life member Kevin Stanger, it's a chance to catch up on all the latest things. Stanger, a company driver for Phoenix Transportation, hadn't been to a match show in about 10 years and noticed a few changes.
Well, yeah, because in years past, the truck show took up all 3 of the halls, and this year it's only 2. And in years past, they had all the new equipment in one hall, all the accessories and anything related to the trucking industry in the second hall, and the third hall was generally all companies trying to recruit drivers. So now they've got it all mixed up, everything in the 2 halls they got now. Well, that's the big difference I noticed yesterday when I came in.
He's still enjoying it, though.
Oh, yeah. I love this. Trucking has been in my soul ever since I was a kid, It's what I wanted to do ever since I was probably 7 or 8 years old.
Stanger is the exact type of person Rich Guida enjoys talking to on the show floor. Guida, the marketing communications manager for House Products, says Matt's is a prime opportunity to connect.
Well, our conversations are going to center around issues they may be having with fuel. So diesel fuel, as you know, ultra-low sulfur diesel. When they took out the sulfur, they took a lot of things out that were positive. Sulfur is a natural lubricant. It helps clean your system. So ultra-low sulfur diesel brings with it some problems. And for 100 years, we've been addressing those problems. So we're here talking about how we can help remove water. We can add lubricity back to their fuel, get them better miles per gallon. And, with these drivers, even a tenth of a mile adds up over the course of driving 110,000 plus miles a year. So most of the fuel issues we have, we're happy we have a solution for them. And it's usually great conversations about things they maybe don't realize that an additive can do for them. So it's been enlightening.
The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association has a booth at Matt's as well. In fact, it's a new booth in a new location. Louis Pugh, the association's executive vice president, says the show is a great chance to meet face-to-face with truckers of every stripe, whether they're an owner-operator, a company driver, or something else in between.
Truckers are great blue-collar, hard-working family people that give up lots and lots of stuff so we can have the things and the comforts of our home and the food in our belly. They give up so much for that. And yeah, they're great people. They're humble people. They're fun people. They got great stories, great jokes. Some we can tell on air, some we can't. But yeah, the people never change here.
And while the people remain the same, the issues sometimes shift. This year, Pew has been hearing about 2 big issues.
I mean, we're hearing the same stuff here that we hear every day at the office. I'd say, rates are still down. Are they going to start coming back up? We feel they flattened, which is a good thing. Hopefully they start, it sounds like it's going to be a slow rise, but hopefully they start the slow rise. So we got that going on. And then, The other thing, of course, is this non-domicile CDL. It was really frustrating yesterday when FMCSA was here and they did their little fireside chat. They wouldn't take Q&A. They didn't talk about anything. It was nothing but a bunch of lip service. And FMCSA knows better. I'm sorry, but they know better. But you know what? Hats off to our president, Todd Spencer, because he didn't take no questions or any of that stuff to heart. He raised his hand, and when they didn't call on him, he yelled it out in there. What are you doing about these non-domiciled CDLs? Who's keeping track? And, the truckers in that room, they appreciated that. Pretty much got a standing applause. And FMCSA half-heartedly answered that question as well, and then they shut her down. But that was disappointing.
Despite the disappointments, the energy at the Kentucky Expo Center is positive, as it should be. After all, MATS is meant to be a celebration of truck drivers. And if you're at the show on Saturday, Pew would love to see you stop by the new booth.
It's an awesome corner location. We have a much bigger booth, bigger signs. We've got a simulator here, all these nice little free giveaways and stuff if you sign up. And the coolest thing we got is on the back side of our booth, we have a thank the trucker wall. And anybody can stop by, write a note to truckers thanking them. I put a note, most of our staffs put notes. And, that's the thing we're really trying to focus on this year with OOIDA is thanking the trucker for what, because nobody thanks you. It's the most thankless job in the world. You show up with people's freight. They yell at you for delivering it. They yell at you for being there to pick it up. So, I really want to make an emphasis to our team, and Todd and I both, is let's thank the people doing the job, whether they sign up or just thank you for being a trucker, because where would America be without you?
Reporting from the 2025 Mid-America Trucking Show in Louisville, Kentucky, Scott Thompson, Landline Now News.
An hours of service exemption request has been made by a company that transports prisoners. In a notice that was published in the Federal Register today, Colorado Huntsman Transport asked FMCSA for a customized hours of service framework that would allow its drivers to accumulate up to 80 hours of on-duty time within a 7-day period. Currently, the limit is 60 hours. In the notice, FMCSA said the applicant states that longer transit times pose a significant risk to public safety. The applicant cites several benefits to the requested exemption, including less time for violent prisoners to escape while in transport, lower costs due to shorter travel times, expediting the return of innocent prisoners, more time off for employees, and fewer delays in achieving closure for victims of crimes. FMCSA will accept comments on Huntsman Transport's exemption request for 30 days. To submit a comment, go to regulations.gov and enter docket number FMCSA-2024-0317. And finally, police officers in Colorado Springs received a unique call recently. According to Fox 21 News, a truck driver ran over a 300-pound landscaping boulder, which then got caught beneath the trailer. The driver continued dragging the boulder through several city blocks in downtown Colorado Springs. Police say the boulder finally became dislodged near the Interstate 25 interchange. No damage was done to the truck or trailer. The article states that the boulder was returned to its original location. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. Congratulations to Stephen L. Red Savage of Fort Worth, Texas. He's received the OOIDA Safe Driving Award for 21 years of safe, accident-free driving. That's the equivalent of a car driver going 158 years without causing a single accident. Next, Ashley Blackford brings us the highlights of a congressional hearing that covered many of the biggest trucking issues today. And Trina Skywalker and Lisa Waske of OOIDA discuss leasing on and your insurance. We'll be back in just a moment. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Protect your diesel engine with House Diesel Defender. Restore vital lubricity, eliminate injector deposits, and boost fuel economy by 5% or more. Power performance protection, all in one. House Diesel Defender, available now.
Firestone's FD694 drive tire for long haul and regional applications now delivers 126,000 more removal miles than the Yokohama TY517 MC2. Contact your Firestone commercial dealer to learn more.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Landline Now, welcome back. A hearing to discuss the top trucking issues in the industry for the upcoming highway bill happened this week. On Wednesday, the Subcommittee on Highways and Transit met. OOIDA's Executive Vice President Louis Pugh was one of 5 people to testify during the hearing.
The highway bill is the Super Bowl during this Congress, and this committee has an opportunity to pass the most pro-trucker highway bill in history. But I want to be clear that pro-trucker and pro-trucking are not always synonymous these days. In fact, many of the policies being touted as good for trucking industry are primarily designed to fatten the wallets and cover the butts of trucking executive corporate shareholders, shippers, brokers, and money-hungry trial lawyers. Most of these proposals prioritize profit over safety by doubling down on many of the problems that have made careers behind the wheel less appealing and sustainable and our roads less safe.
Pugh said OOIDA's goal is to shape federal policy to make trucking a more attractive, sustainable, and safe career for professional drivers.
Our goal is to shape federal policy in a manner to make trucking a more attractive and sustainable and safe career for professional drivers. In the end, we're working with bipartisan members of this committee on key policies that will help develop a generation of safe drivers while simultaneously keeping today's experienced drivers behind the wheel. These policies include ending the truck parking crisis, combating freight fraud, guaranteeing broker transparency, ensuring restroom access for truckers at shipping facilities, reducing the perpetual driver turnover rates at large carriers, enhancing entry-level driver training requirements, preventing the counterproductive speed limiter mandate, eliminating predatory lease-to-own schemes, and more. In my written testimony, we provided a blueprint for members of this committee who share our goal of passing the most pro-trucker surface transportation reauthorization in history. I look forward to discussing these plans with you during the questioning, and thank you very much.
23 members of the subcommittee questioned the panel of speakers, including Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, who asked 3 of the witnesses about increased size and weight limits.
Mr. Scandalia, Mr. Elliott, and Mr. Pugh. Each of you addressed the issues with increasing truck size or weight limits in your testimony. Collectively, your organizations represent the drivers and carriers tasked with safety and responsibly transporting goods. A majority of the witnesses here today are staunchly opposed to proposals that put lives at risk. Why is it important to reject proposals to increase truck size or weight limits?
First of all, my colleague here to my left said he has a hard time finding drivers. If we raise these size and weights, it's going to get even worse. We've interviewed drivers, and there's been surveys out there back to 2022 where truckers said it would make their job 68% more difficult, and 87% said it would make the roads less unsafe. So this is a safety thing as well. I'd also remind folks that earlier this year, there was a hearing here, and Home Depot admittedly said that once you increase the rates, it's fine, but we're not going to pay the drivers anymore. Drivers are already not making enough. Also, there's a huge investment in this equipment that these folks can't afford, or what happens is they buy this equipment, and all the equipment that they have just ends up sitting out back somewhere, like as a junkyard or whatever.
John Elliott with the Truckload Carriers Association was also testifying. He said the industry is divided on the issue of heavier and longer trucks.
The trucking industry is a little divided on this issue. LTL is a very small segment who endorses larger. There are some segments that endorse heavier. As an industry, truckload is by far the largest segment, and we adamantly oppose both. And it comes down to a couple simple things. One, safety. Bigger, heavier, longer does not represent safer in any way. And the bottom line is our bridges on the 2025 infrastructure report, bridges were rated D+. C. Our roads were rated a D+. So there's nothing that in conjunction with heavier and longer that does anything to rectify that. Modifying the equipment or replacing the equipment would simply put many, many trucking companies, especially small trucking companies, out of business. It's financially uneconomical, and the money could be much better spent on safety technology and things like that we can put in place today. The trucking industry spends, we spent $14 billion on safety enhancements in 2022. So we're very committed as an industry to safety.
Congresswoman Holmes Norton asked if average Americans would see any benefit from heavier and longer trucks.
In my opinion, no, because we'll have the continued safety numbers and accidents will continue to go up because, again, this is a safety thing. These trucks are going to take longer to stop. They're bigger, they're heavier, they're going to tear up the roads worse. We're going to see our infrastructure destroyed, so it'll be the opposite effect. And the person who's going to lose the most on this is the American trucker or the small fleet owner. I personally hauled steel for many years in Ohio, and what would happen was when you would haul permit loads, like for Worthington Steel, they would cut the rate on the permit loads because you were hauling more weight, the stuff paid by the weight. And I think it was said earlier that these trucks are on secondary roads a lot, and I understand that. But part of the reason they're on secondary roads, that's not going to change because that's where they pick up and deliver the freight. So they're still going to be out there on these secondary roads. We're not going to change that.
During questioning from Congressman Jerry Nadler, Pugh added that these safety concerns are not just from him and OOIDA.
Mr. Pugh, your testimony strongly opposed increasing truck weight limits, citing serious safety concerns such as increased braking distances, higher risks of overturning, and greater strain on braking systems. From your perspective as a representative of small and independent truckers, why do you believe that increasing truck weights would make our roads more dangerous? And what specific safety risks are being overlooked by proponents of heavier trucks?
Yes. First and foremost, I go to the drivers themselves. There's nobody who cares more about highway safety than truckers. And as I stated earlier, 68% of them think it'll make their jobs much more difficult. 84% think heavier trucks will make the roads unsafe. 85% think longer trucks will make the roads even more unsafe. I think truckers probably know the best about highway safety more than anyone. So that's the first and foremost. Be a huge added cost to this that small business truckers probably won't be able to handle. I remind folks that I hauled steel. I would gross out always before I cubed out hauling steel and stuff. I've hauled these heavier loads. There does take more skill, does take much more responsibility. You have to be much more on your game. And then the final straw is nobody wants to pay these people more to do this. I mean, we've heard it said in this room. You're going to haul this more weight and have to take this stress without any more pay.
Mr. Pugh, your testimony also emphasizes that in addition to reducing safety, increasing the size and weight of large trucks could adversely impact small trucking businesses. Can you explain how small businesses could be impacted by increases to truck size and weight?
Yeah, small business trucking, trucking in general is a very, very tight profit margin business, just like farming. There's not a lot of extra money out there. I tell people that it's a penny saved industry, not a penny made. And like I said, there's costs all the time. By doing this, you already have invested $150,000, $200,000 in a piece of equipment. And now all of a sudden, if we change the rule, because we saw this when we went to 53-foot trailers, we saw this when we went from 73, 280 to 80. All at once, this $200,000 piece of equipment you have is either obsolete, so you have to go out here and invest in more expensive equipment, or you spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 trying to add extra axles in these things that sound so easy to get yourself to where you can haul these loads. Because whether the shippers or the receivers need these trucks or not, they're going to think they do. That's what happened when we went to 53 feet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also just want to point out briefly that increasing truck weights or lengths would change the economics and switch more freight from rail to trucks. And of course, we know that rails are much less polluting and much more energy efficient, and this would be exactly against the interests of the country. I thank you, and I yield back.
Tolling and fuel tax was another topic of discussion, with the Truckload Carriers Association saying tolling is highly inefficient.
The amount of money that goes for administration versus goes in to the roads is very, very unequitable. Where the current fuel tax system, only 1% is going to administration. It's a workable system with 99 cents on every dollar collected going to right where it needs to go. When you privatize that is not the case. I don't remember the exact numbers. I think it's 30-40% or more. I believe it's more, but I don't want to misquote. Goes to the administration side. So we do not consider it to be a logical or viable option for our industry.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. As far as my members in trucking, we support the fuel tax, and that's all we would like to see as far as trucking. I agree with what Mr. Elliott said. It's fair, it's equitable, it works. It's been working for years. We need a fair, equitable raise. If we're going to raise it, it needs to be fair and equitable between cars and trucks. But for far too long, we've seen our highway trust fund depleted with highway beautification projects and bicycle trails and all these different things like that don't help transportation or help trucking. I mean, we'd love to see some of this money reallocated to truck parking in the Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act. I mean, that's highway safety is what we're all here for, and a good night's rest for an American trucker is probably the number one thing we can do for safety right off the get-go. But yeah, we do not want tolls. Tolls are unfair. As a small business trucker who used to truck to the East Coast, I spent $11,000 to $12,000 every single solitary year for one truck on tolls and on the East Coast. So tolls are by far unfair. I'm sure the GW Bridge was paid for many, many moons ago, but you're still paying over $100 to drive across it.
Truck parking and the lack thereof was talked about during the hearing. Representative Mike Bost asked Louis Pugh directly about the issue.
Mr. Pugh, I'd like to start by asking you some questions, if I could, about truck parking. You know, obviously, we're always concerned about wasteful spending here, and as we should be, and here, when dealing with federal government and the way we spend the money. But with regard to Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act, what would you say to lawmakers that are more concerned about the money that's being involved for the parking and what the advantages of spending that money would be compared to not?
Thank you for the question. And yes, I understand everybody's concerned about spending money. I have a huge concern about money being spent in Washington as well. We want money spent on good things that give us good results. As I said earlier, if we're really concerned about safety, first thing and most important thing is a driver should have a safe place to rest every single solitary night. We're at a place in this country where there's one safe spot for every 11 trucks. I'm sure Mr. Boss is well aware of the accident that happened just north of his district on I-70 last year when a trucker was illegally parked on an exit ramp and was rear-ended by a Greyhound bus at 3 a.m. Unfortunately, that trucker was left with no choice where to park. Every day in this country, every single solitary day, truckers are left with the decision of one, to either park early and take money away from themselves and their family because they are paid piecework and by the mile, the most of them. So they either park early at a safe place, or two, they try to roll down the road and find a safe spot before they run out of hours, because they're governed by hours of service, and hope to find a safe spot. And then if they don't, they're left with two choices. Either they continue to drive and break hours of service and be in violation and can receive a ticket, or two, they park in an unsafe place and pray to God that they wake up the next morning without anything happening to that buster. So what we need to do is reallocate some money. We put plenty of money into enforcement and other things to rate these drivers violations for breaking hours of service. So I think we could probably reallocate a little bit to give them a safe place to park.
You're listening to clips from the House Highways and Transit Subcommittee hearing that was held this week. The hearing was held to discuss the top trucking issues for the upcoming highway bill. We'll have more on Monday. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Dispatch, I picked up that load of steel, so I'm ready to roll.
Sounds good. Remember, we're getting paid by weight, so make sure to use a CAT scale.
I wouldn't weigh anywhere else.
Forget miss accuracy when you're truck on a CAT scale.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
Landline Now, welcome back. Like tires, fuel, and an engine, insurance is one of those things you just have to have for your truck. But not all insurance is created equal. Ashley Blackford is here with the experts from OOIDA's Truck Insurance Department to answer some questions.
Thanks, Mark, and hello to Trina Skywalker and Lisa Waske with OOIDA's Insurance Department. How are you doing today, ladies?
Fantastic.
Great. Wonderful. Today, we are talking about important information when it comes to leasing onto a carrier. What is someone who's in that situation? What are they responsible for when it comes to insurance?
Well, it depends on your lease. In most contracts, the motor carrier is going to provide your main coverages, the primary liability and cargo. And then they may make you responsible for physical damage, secondary liability like bobtail, or other stuff. You just need to make sure you read your contract to know exactly what they do and what you're going to need to do.
Well, and quite honestly, if your contract says that you're responsible for primary liability, then it's not a compliant lease. I mean, it's, that's one of the factors of a lease agreement is they are mandated to provide that coverage for you. And so any compliant lease is going to say that they are carrying that portion of it.
And when it comes to the lease, insurance companies, agents, are they going to delve into your lease to see what you need, or is that your responsibility?
Typically, it is your responsibility. Most insurance companies aren't going to, but I think we're the exception to the rule.
I was going to say we would.
Yeah. If they call us and they're not sure, they can send it to us and we'll look it over and make sure that it is compliant.
Well, and we are asked to do that sometimes. And honestly, it's, business services really has a knack for looking over various forms of contracts to see if they're compliant and whatnot. But, we've looked over a fair few in our time. And, we've gotten to the point, the tenured folks like Lisa and I have gotten to the
Good
point
word.
where I try. It sounds better than old.
Yes.
Yeah. We can kind of look into that and usually spot pretty quickly what it says you're responsible for, what you need to carry, and things of that nature. But you're right. Most agents aren't. And it's better that way. A lot of them aren't trained on what to look for and aren't sure what to look for. So there's not a whole lot that can do that.
One-liners, because you get contracts that basically have one line in them. Those aren't compliant.
Oh, okay.
Usually.
Yeah, and usually those aren't even going to say much about what you're supposed to carry or what they're going to carry.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if it's a 1 or 2 pager, it's probably not going to have all the factors.
Now, the motor carrier always obligated to provide the primary liability, but that's something you pay for, correct?
Yes.
That comes out of and what's important to look for on that as far as how much they're charging you for that?
Well, they cannot charge you more than what they pay. So it's important to look at that particular portion of it. And, we've found that some companies aren't going to charge you a dollar and cents amount. They're going to just charge you a percentage. And that's going to be your escrow, your insurance, all that entails. And that's kind of, I hate to call it a loophole, but it is how some of them kind of get around that factor, because instead of saying, well, you're paying $8.92, $15 a month, for insurance, they're just going to say we're taking 15% off the top, 20%, whatever the case may be.
How important is it to look into that? Do you see oftentimes that people are maybe getting screwed over in that way?
Some are, yeah. So it is important. And if you think you are, if you're not sure, ask to see what they pay. They have the right to know what they're paying for and how much they're paying.
I'm glad you said that, because I was just thinking it's never a bad idea to ask for that proof. I mean, I say proof hesitantly because, it's always kind of a sticky area when you're asking to see, your motor carrier's financial your bills or what have you. But also if you're being asked to pay it, and again, no one's going to pay it for you. I mean, it's several $100s a month, if not, over $1,000. And so no one's just going to eat that premium. But it's not unreasonable to say, well, I would like to, if you're charging me $895.72, then I would like to see that proof. And some of them are pretty willing to share that information with you, and some aren't. We've seen over the years that if they're hesitant or kind of get up in arms about it, there's probably a reason.
Yeah. Now, so there's the category of what they provide and what you have to have. Is there anything else that you typically see other than primary liability?
Cargo. They should provide that as well, because most of the time the bill of ladings are going to be in the motor carrier's name.
Mm-hmm.
Some contracts do give the option of the owner-operator to carry it, but you want to make sure if that bill of lading's not in your name, it could cause issues come claim time.
Right.
What are some of the other things you recommend people get on that maybe are, I guess, considered extra but are important to have?
Well, I think we go into a lot of our sessions here. We get into towing coverage. And honestly, that's a good question to ask the motor carrier too. If there's an accident, especially a cargo spill or something of that nature, dig into what their policy includes, so they do have to provide primary liability. They usually provide cargo. What does that mean for you as far as cleanup and towing? If they don't have that extra coverage, are you responsible for it? Are they going to foot that bill? If they don't have the coverage for it, does your lease agreement say who's responsible for it? That can be a huge, huge, huge bill, tens of thousands of dollars. And so it's very important to check that out. Carry it on your own if you can, but ask them too.
See if they cover it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This seems like something also you want to find out before the situation arises and you realize, oh, they're not going to cover that. Like, that is on me, right?
Wait until after.
Yeah. Roll the dice.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely. We cannot emphasize enough how important it is to look into that out the gate, just because we've seen people lose their livelihoods over this kind of predicament.
What about secondary liability? What is that?
Secondary is something that covers liability, protection for the other person when you're not maybe under dispatch, or if you're using your truck for personal use. The motor carrier doesn't want to be responsible for you all the time. They want to know if you're just out joyriding, which I'm not sure you're doing that in your semi, but maybe, that you have coverage.
They do get really good fuel mileage. So.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
If you hurt somebody in an accident, that you have coverage for that.
What about physical damage coverage? What does that cover?
Physical damage is going to be, it's basically like on your personal auto, you'd call it comp and collision. Okay. In commercial insurance, it's all rolled up into one. It's comprehensive and collision, so it's fire, theft, vandalism, things of that nature, damage to your equipment. And sometimes the motor carrier will offer to provide that for you, but then if your lease terminates, usually that coverage goes out the door with it. Same with the secondary liability. That can be bobtail, non-trucking, bobtail deadhead, regardless of which form you're carrying. We always recommend to have your own policy for that. Sometimes it is cheaper through the motor carrier because they can get a group plan or a package deal. And, finances are important. Saving money is important. And we totally get that. But also you don't want to be left hanging, when your lease terminates and then you have zilch.
You have no way to get your truck somewhere else because you have no liability.
Now, I'm curious, if a motor carrier says, we offer this coverage, do you have the option, and maybe it's different with every motor carrier, do you have the option to say, like, I'd rather just get it on my own, or do you have to go through the motor carrier, or does it depend?
Primary liability, you have to go through the motor carrier. They're the ones responsible for it because of you're using their MC, their DOT numbers. Cargo, typically, again, you're going to carry it through them. Other coverages should be optional. Most of them are going to give you that option, but a lot of them want you to carry everything with them because they want to know, you're running based on their name. They want to know you're covered for any and all incidents.
I mean, it would be a little concerning to me if they said you have to get your physical damage through us, because my first question would be why? How does it behoove you? for me to carry my physical damage through you. I mean, it's your investment. It's your equipment that you're protecting. You want to have the say-so in your policy because you don't know if they're getting you a bare bones policy. You don't know if that policy has the extra towing coverage. What if you have a mechanical breakdown? What if you have an accident and need a rental? You just don't have the control over that policy that they're providing like you do your own, by calling around and getting your own quotes.
Yep. That kind of speaks to the importance, too, of seeing the policy, right? And seeing what it entails.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, just to reiterate, knowing what you have covered, because if you roll the dice and get caught in one of those situations and then find out later you have $2,000 for towing, if any, and then you've got a $25,000 bill, if it's on your equipment because it's sitting in a tow lot for storage, your motor carrier is probably not going to pay it. Just because they're providing that coverage and taking that money out of your settlement does not mean that they're going to cover that added cost if your insurance doesn't cover it.
Right. And maybe this was covered in one of the other coverages, but when it comes to bobtail, what kind of coverage does the motor carrier typically provide something for that, or is that something you should have on your own?
Usually they will offer it. Again, like Lisa said earlier, if the lease terminates, you don't have a way to get the truck home. Now, that being said, usually a bobtail policy is not going to cover you to get the truck home because their primary liability has to be in place. That's why we call it secondary, because it's second to that primary liability that they provide. And so if that primary isn't in place, the bobtail has nothing to come second to, and it doesn't work as a standalone. But some insurance companies, if you have the policy on your own, maybe have an option, maybe a clause for one trip, maybe a temporary coverage, a way to get you home. If you take it through them, they're not going to offer you that. They're going to terminate your lease and you're done. They're not going to say, well, you're not working out for us, but here's 5 days of coverage to get home. They're just not.
Yeah. What kind of questions do you hear coming in that people, when they do call for coverage, that they typically have? Are there any that you kind of hear over and over?
Most of them just want full coverage.
Yeah.
Which we typically, we don't have what we call full coverage. We'll offer your standard, your physical damage, bobtail if they're leased, or the non-trucking or the bobtail deadhead, and that can depend on your lease because some leases will say strictly bobtail, some will say the non-trucking. You want to make sure you know the difference between the two, and that's a question we get a lot is what do they cover?
I think that also speaks to the importance of, calling a company like OOIDA, who I assume people who sell, home and auto insurance, they're probably not well-versed in the trucking world, I would think.
You picked those words directly out of my brain just now.
All right, ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our thanks to Trina Skywalker and Lisa Waske of OOIDA's Truck Insurance Department. If you have any questions about insurance, you can call 816-229-5791. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. We'll be back after this.
At Truck Stop, we've built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Capital Reman, the leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, has partnered with OOIDA to offer exclusive member benefits. Visit capitalreman.com today to support America's transportation industry and take advantage of your benefits.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. Mother's Day is a little over a month away, and those involved with the annual Mother's Day Make-A-Wish truck convoy in Pennsylvania are hard at work. Landline Magazine's Ryan Witkowski recently spoke with the organization's development director.
Joining us today is Lori Dietrich. She's the Director of Development for Make-A-Wish Foundation in Philadelphia, Delaware, and Susquehanna Valley. The annual Mother's Day truck convoy coming up here on May 10th. And Lori, I do appreciate you joining us to talk about that. There was a change of venue a few years back for that annual convoy, now entering its 36th year. The convoy has a small change for 2025. Tell me what that is and why that change was made.
That is correct. So for the first time in 35 years, we are holding the truck convoy on the Saturday before Mother's Day. So still on Mother's Day weekend, but a change from actually having it on Sunday to Saturday. And that was really for a multitude of reasons. As Mother's Day has grown in popularity over the decades, we have just been hearing a lot of feedback from all parties involved, from our volunteers and drivers to corporate sponsors, that it is tough to get people to come out on Mother's Day. They just have other plans with their family. So we're trying to give people the best of both worlds. Come out and support the convoy on Saturday. You can still enjoy your Mother's Day celebration on Sunday.
Yeah, the last person you need to disappoint is mom over that weekend. So
correct.
Probably a good move for you guys. And I guess tell me a little bit more about the event, because the convoy is just part of the fun you guys plan every year. For those that may be new to the Mother's Day convoy, what can they expect?
So we do have a family fest that takes place at the venue, which is the Mannheim PA Auto Auction in Mannheim, Pennsylvania. So for that part of it, we do have food trucks. We have family-friendly games and activities. There's an online auction and a basket raffle. There's a lot of things to see and do. We have community tables. And then, of course, probably the best part is getting to see all of the trucks coming in, getting staged, lining up, and then we hold the kickoff of the convoy at the venue that day at 1:30. So people who come to the Family Fest will get to actually see the kickoff of the trucks leaving. Then they will embark on their 26-mile route through picturesque, beautiful Lancaster County and the lovely town of Mount Joy, Pennsylvania. And then they can depart from there or circle back to the convoy venue, especially if they have a wish kid on board. They do need to bring the child and their guardian back.
It's probably for the best. She's Lori Dietrich, Development Director for Make-A-Wish, Philadelphia, Delaware, and Susquehanna Valley, talking about the upcoming Mother's Day convoy that's taking place on May 10th. And Lori, that convoy, a huge part of your guys' annual fundraising efforts, accounting for over 70% of the funds raised by Make-A-Wish each year, at least your guys' chapter. What makes this event so successful for you guys every year?
Really, it comes down to the drivers. They truly are the backbone of this event, and the majority of the funds raised do come from the drivers. And it is really about those top 50 or 60 drivers that are doing fundraising themselves. So they're out there in the trenches, doing events, asking their friends and families, working with their employers to contribute to their campaigns. And we have drivers that are in our top 30 that we always recognize each year that are really raising anywhere between $2,500 up to tens of thousands of dollars each year. And that truly is what is fueling this event. And then from there, we, have different partnerships that we do and corporate sponsors that help round out the rest of the campaign budget. And you are correct. The money that's raised through the Convoy campaign supports about 70 to 75% of the wishes that happen in the Susquehanna Valley region.
Well, and I think, too, over the last several years, and we've had this conversation before, but the economy hasn't been great, especially for truckers. And it really says something that these drivers continue to show their support, continue to show up, and continue to give their time.
Absolutely. And any driver can participate in the event. They don't have to necessarily do fundraising. Of course, we highly recommend it, but they can come out, pay the $100 registration fee, and participate in the event, and also have the option of taking a wish kid if they're allowed to, by their company, to take a Wish kid and their guardian on the route with them. I mean, it is such a special event, and it is very heartwarming to watch the convoy kick off, see these little kids and some teenagers too getting in on the fun, all former Wish kids, waving and enjoying themselves. And really, it just comes down to being able to support a great cause and making a meaningful difference in a child's life.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about it being a special event, I think one of the really cool things is those drivers that come back year after year and how they really develop a connection with the Wish kids, who also, by the way, get a chance to ride along, as you mentioned, during the convoy. I just think it's really cool that these drivers are so invested in what they're doing.
We really do. And we have had a lot of drivers that have been involved for decades. And sadly, we are seeing some of them retire, especially the ones that have really been around almost from the beginning. They have formed special bonds with the Wish kids, and sometimes they are taking the same Wish child and family year after year after year. It is so special to see. But there's also a lot of room for up and coming drivers. We have a lot of new drivers that are new to our top fundraisers. We have one driver this year who is getting the distinct honor of having a very special VIP ride in his truck with him this year. Linda Pauline, the founder of Make-A-Wish, will be attending this year, and she will be doing a ride along with one of our top 30 drivers.
Oh, that's really, really cool. Well, the event comes up on May 10th. How can drivers and businesses, for that matter, get involved?
There's a lot of ways to get involved. You can register to drive, you can be a corporate sponsor, and you can also volunteer. And then you can just come out with your family that day and enjoy all the festivities. All of that information is on our official website, which is wishconvoy.org.
Well, she is Lori Dietrich, Development Director for Make-A-Wish Philadelphia, Delaware, and Susquehanna Valley. The upcoming event, the Mother's Day Truck Convoy, taking place May 10th. Make sure to visit that website for more information. And Lori, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
That was Ryan Wachowski talking about the upcoming Make-A-Wish Mother's Day Truck Convoy in Pennsylvania. For more information, head to wishconvoy.org. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. If you want to make your voice heard on any of the issues that we discussed on the show today or any other day, you should call your representative in the U.S. House and both of your U.S. senators. To call any member of Congress, just dial the U.S. Capitol switchboard. That phone number is 202-224-3121. Provide the operator your zip code, and they can connect you directly to the office of your senators and your U.S. congressman. Again, that phone number is 202-224-3121. You can also make contact with those lawmakers by using the website fightingfortruckers.com. At that website, go to the button that says Contact Your Representatives. On the right side of that page, you can compose an email and send it to the people who represent you in the House and Senate. Meanwhile, if you want to get contact information for state officials about an issue closer to home, you can get that contact information for those lawmakers through the same website, fightingfortruckers.com. Again, go to the link that says Contact Your Representatives. Then scroll to the bottom of the page and enter your zip code and click Continue. That will bring up a list of your elected representatives at the federal and state level with links to their contact information. And of course, you can always get that contact information by calling the membership department right here at OOIDA. Our program is produced by the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, the only national organization representing the interest of professional truck drivers in Washington, D.C., in state legislatures, and with the regulatory agencies dealing with transportation and highway safety. Call us today at 816-229-5791. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer,
I farm,
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
My kids.
chrome.
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together, we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us.
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.